shadows, and sometimes even just contradicts the first one I talked about, is this idea that Asians are outsiders. Throughout history, this outsider stereotype has been enforced since the first Asian immigrants coming to this country, and most recently during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a study led by DeWar Group in 2023, during the pandemic, anti-Asian hate was at an all-time high and was shaped by the political rhetoric around the origins of the virus. This resurgence of xenophobia was seen through the media, with many brands and companies struggling on how to navigate through these risky waters. And with many brands using X, then Twitter, as outlets to spread their messages across, this leads to the common theme of public perception and response. And in a world where anything can be interpreted by anyone, crisis management departments are key not only in helping the brand build a reputation post-controversy, but also just, again, navigating through these risky scenarios and incidents. And with that, for the 2 case studies for the brands I chose, I used textual analysis to conduct my research. Textual analysis is an effective tool for evaluating and analyzing events, statements, media, public responses, and anything surrounding the incident. For example, not only did I want to look at the immediate response that the company made, or even no response at all, I want to look at the surrounding narratives as well. What was said on Twitter, what was said on Reddit, what was said on news articles, even smaller blog articles, just because the public truly controls on how the brand succeeds or fails post-controversy. And along with textual analysis, I plan on formatting the case studies around the 3 phases of crisis communication and management that I learned in my advertising and publicity class with Dr. Amy Clements. Those being the realization phase, sorry, you can go to the next one. Those being the realization phase, which is the crisis and how quickly the brand can respond. Second being resolution, which is the actions that take place afterwards in order to repair. Ooh, I apologize. In order to repair. And third, the reputation and aftermath, which is the impact and recovery from the crisis. Taking a look at our first brand, Lululemon is one of the most popular athletic leisure apparel brands in the world today. Yet their rocky history with controversies all stem mainly from the man that's on the slide, which is their founder and former CEO, Chip Wilson. In 2004, in an interview with the National Post magazine, Wilson explains the origins behind the name Lululemon stemmed because he found it amusing that people with a Japanese accent might struggle to pronounce the L in the English language. Quote, "It's kind of exotic for them. I was playing with L's and I came up with Lululemon. It's funny to watch them try and say it," end quote. How did they respond? They didn't. Lululemon nor Wilson ever released an official apology on the incident, and over the next few years, Wilson would also say a lot of other controversial things through many media outlets, attacking even other minority groups. This would finally catch up to him in 2013, when, after another insensitive comment on live television in a failed apology video, he eventually stepped down from the company in 2013. And then another crisis that occurred in 2020 was in relation to Trevor Flemings, who was an art director at the time, posting a link in his social media bio that took you to a website that took you to a website that was promoting this t-shirt shown on screen, which had a graphic of a takeout box with no thank you on the front and bat wings sticking out of the side. With bat wings sticking out of the side, again, though Flemings was in indirect affiliation with it, he was still promoting it, and again, showing that ongoing xenophobic and anti-Asian behavior that was happening during the COVID-19 pandemic. This was Lulu's response. It was way better than the last time. Immediately following it, not only did they release Flemings from his position, but also tweeted this through their media outlets and Twitter, saying, quote, "The t-shirt design is not a Lululemon product. We apologize that the employee was affiliated or promoting an offensive t-shirt, and we take this seriously." Today, they still thrive as one of the most popular athletic apparel brands in the world today, yet they're still feeling the lingering effects of things said by Wilson, not only in the past, but also in present day. For example, shown in the photo, they released a commercial featuring Academy Award-winning actress Michelle Yeoh in celebration for Lunar New Year just last year, and the immediate response was bringing up Wilson's comments that he made 20 years ago, as well as just saying that they weren't feeling that Lululemon was authentically promoting the material. As well, two weeks before the commercial was released, Wilson was reported to bash the new DEI initiatives that the brand was trying to implement, just showing that he truly still has an effect on the brand's reputation, even though he's not technically part of the company anymore. But at the same time, the two factors of product appeal and strong consumer base allow for the company to thrive post-controversy. Looking at my second brand, Abercrombie & Fitch, what I will be calling A&F for the rest of the presentation, is an American fashion and clothing brand that is typically catered to young adults in their early 20s or in college. Yet A&F's early branding heavily relied on promoting being exclusive or attracting only the specific and cool, which led to a lot of controversies towards a lot of minority groups that felt excluded over the years. For example, in 2002, at the peak of their popularity, they joined a trend of selling tons of graphic tees, since it was not only easy to make the designs in-house, but they could push it out to the public very quickly. One of those lines had a lot of racist caricatures depicting Asian men doing jobs, the one shown on screen causing a lot of backlash, saying Wong Brothers Laundry Service, 2 Wongs can make it white. Again, not only reinforcing these harmful stereotypes that are seen throughout history, but also, again, making fun of the Asian accent. After public backlash, A&F pulled the shirts off their shelves just a week after becoming available, with spokesperson Hampton Carney at the time saying that they were very, very, very sorry, and offered an excuse for their actions, saying, quote, "We never singled out any one group to poke fun at. We poke fun at everyone. There's really no group we haven't teased." It was revealed later in the Netflix documentary White Hot, The Rise and Fall of A&F, that 2 of the team members actually approved this campaign, and t-shirts were actually of Asian descent, showing that the hierarchy at the time may have not allowed them to speak up to hopefully minimize harm, and hopefully this controversy could have never taken place. Going on to another crisis, in 2003, in the early 2000s, there was a lot of cases of current and people who were applying at A&F being rejected because their appearance or their race did not fit the standards that A&F had for its models and spokespeople. Anthony Ocampo is one of the individuals who joined the 2003 class action lawsuit. As he said, he applied to A&F, didn't get a response, went into store and was told by an employee, quote, "My manager said we cannot hire you because we already have too many Filipinos working at the store." Not only was Ocampo confused because he just got rejected from a job, but at the same time, he never disclosed that he was Filipino at all throughout the process. How did they respond? The lawsuit continued over the next few years, and in 2004, A&F eventually settled for $40 million with never formally admitting to guilt. Yet this wouldn't be the end to their legal troubles. In 2015, they would lose a Supreme Court case ruling that they did violate the Civil Rights Act of 1964 when they refused to hire someone who wore a headscarf during their interview. This eventually would have a domino effect, leading to 2017 when then CEO Michael Jeffries would step down from the role and allow for Franz Horowitz to step in and begin the rebranding initiatives. Today, many say that A&F's attempt to reinvent themselves has been a major improvement, and they've done a great job with, again, learning from the past, but again, differentiating yourself from the past is very crucial. The brand has not only distanced themselves from the past, but shifted messaging to emphasize and showcasing diversity and inclusion. And in comparison to like Lululemon, they also celebrated Lunar New Year last year, except instead of feeling a lot of hate, they got a lot of praise. Not only did they release an apparel line, but also had a lot of festivities and lunches to celebrate the corporate employees that celebrated the holiday. Awesome. Okay, so some key takeaways that I got from both of these brands. One is that crisis management and brand recovery is truly essential for every brand, no matter how big or small the incident may be. But there's also a lot of factors that may come into play when looking at the success of crisis management and their reputation afterwards. For example, the strong product appeal and strategic branding efforts were shown through my case studies. But at the end of the day, the main message I'm going to put out for this section is that brands must not only take accountability for their mistake, but implement the actions afterwards to hopefully build for a better future. And then another thing is in relation to the workplace environment as well as DEI. I'll go over the workplace first. Communication is so important in today's world, and dating back to the A&F incident, if 2 of the Asian members spoke up in that meeting without having to fear for their job, it might have just totally avoided the crisis in general. But having open communication, and again, something I learned in class, the more eyes you see on a project and the more opinions you get, not only will better internal communication, but also give a better product at the end of the day. And then also, I made this presentation I offered this in thesis prep, which was a semester ago, and then now with a lot of the political and legal shifts that are happening in our country, I have no idea what DEI is going to be, even like a week from now or 3 months. But if DEI is the issue that they see today, the main thing I want to emphasize is that if you connect with your audience, and if you do the research and look at your target audience and the demographics and connect with them authentically, not only will it improve the brand publicly to the public, but also you'll get a strong consumer loyalty relationship out of it. And not only is that good financially, but it's good authentically as well. Okay, so finally, I will leave you with this final thought. In a world where one viral moment could make or break a brand, companies must ask themselves not only what do we stand for, but who do we stand with, because at the end of the day, a brand reputation isn't built on a crisis, it's revealed on how they respond to one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elijah. You were quick, so we have a good amount of time for Q&A. So, who wants to start?
I imagine there's many other instances like this. How did you settle on these two? And, I mean, obviously you gave a presentation about it, but what specifically about it, really stuck out as, these are two kind of case studies that you want to look at?
Definitely. There's a lot of surrounding aspects of my life that I've seen through this presentation. For one, I'm proud Filipino American as well as Asian American, so I definitely wanted to look at crises and controversies that were in relation to my community, as well being a communication and PR and advertising major. It started off as like looking at representation in advertising, but then I saw so much negative stuff doing research, I decided to just see how a brand can recover and rebuild themselves following it.
So you talk about the Netflix documentary about the two Asians that were, did it say in the documentary that they were concerned about their job for not speaking up? Or?
No, they never disclosed it. I think they showed just the process of how the t-shirts were on sale and then how they'd taken off and the backlash, and then it was like immediate shock, like doing a lot of the post interviews with a bunch of executives when they found out that two Asians were actually on the team.
Okay.
So again, just promoting that better communication internally can help with external factors.
Okay. All right, so your assumption was that they were just afraid to speak on it. That's
Yeah.
what I'd say.
I have one. So, this is really interesting, so thank you. But what can companies, entities, organizations do to navigate such a multicultural, multilingual society like the U.S.? We'll pretend that the DEI stuff doesn't exist yet.
It's all in the research and development phase, knowing your audience and doing a lot of research, not only with people within the community, but not just having just a broad answer or solution to anything. For example, Lululemon faced backlash just because of a lot of their previous attempts, but in all honesty, they were showing good initiatives of showing that they were trying to be more inclusive and even connect with their audience, because Asia is a big part of Lululemon's demographic as well.
Okay.
But at the same time, it all just depends on how they truly do the research before putting it out there.
Right, okay.
I know you looked at these two case studies in particular, and the issues seem to be like maybe like 20 years ago, like 2003, 2004, and they seem to have recovered by now. So what do you think is like the single most important thing that contributes to a company's like longevity throughout all those years?
I think looking at these two cases more specifically, if you look at Lululemon, they're still facing backlash for things said 20 years ago. While A&F is recovering because they've done a great job at differentiating themselves. Like, I'm not going to lie, the CEO is going through a lot of controversies and legal troubles right now, but the things that A&F are doing is separating themselves from his leadership. So at the same time, I think Lulu needs to do a better job with differentiating themselves and saying that Wilson's statements are not reflective of their current policies, but at the same time, it's hard because he founded the company and his words truly have an impact on what they are. So I think time does truly heal, but at the same time, you have to also have those rebranding efforts to differentiate themselves.
So speaking of Chip Wilson, so he doesn't have any role at all. He's just kind of like
He doesn't have a role actively in like the executive leadership of the company. He does have stakes still in the company, and then just because his name is like founder of Lulu in any news outlet, it's of course going to.
Do you know how much of a stake he has in controlling?
I do not know off the top of my head, but I do. We did recent research and we just kept uncovering stuff that was just we don't really like investment. Anything else?
So does St. Ed's need a crisis management team?
Every department, every company, or even a school or university should have a crisis management, just because today in the digital world, anything can be interpreted as anything, so you might as well have the steps and things to hopefully handle it well and professionally.
Do we have one? Do you know? Okay.
I think that's marketing's job.
Okay.
This falls out.
I think.
Yeah.
Someone's got it covered.
Someone's got it.
Hopefully someone has it.
It's not faculty.
It's not. Okay. Any more questions? Okay.
How do you balance the different, because there's various different groups, under the DI umbrella, You were saying the U.S. is a very diverse company. How do you balance the competing interests or the beliefs of those different groups as a company?
Just again, finding your target audience. Instead of just advertising to just Asians in general, maybe in October you can advertise to specific Pacific Islanders and Asian American Heritage Month, rather than just having like a Lunar New Year ad run year round.
Okay. So you just kind of more balance it.
Yeah, definitely.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Elijah. So Dr. Lori Peterson will speak just a bit about the process, and Elijah, and then she'll do the story.
I have to bring it really short. Does it?
It works.
Does it work? Can y'all hear me back? Can you hear me in the back?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Just a couple of words about the evolution of Elijah's project. When he came to me first pitching his idea, it was in the fall, I believe. Yeah, it was in the fall. And my first concern was, do I have to stop wearing Lululemon? Like, that was my first, like, what are you going to find out? What are you going to tell me? Now, with the, as you said, the shift in government and administration, and we are seeing all of these attacks on DEI, I think that this project has taken on much more relevant, it's just much more relevant in our current society. And I want us to remember that even in the midst of all of the negative attacks on DEI that are going on, that we, the consumer, have power. I think we've seen that with companies that have already caved to pressure to, anything goes, anyone can, we don't have to abide by DEI anymore. So now, who knows, Chip Wilson may found a new company before we know it. But we have power as consumers to really kind of fight back against that. And I think we've seen that with Costco, who was one company that did not cave into pressure. So Elijah, this research is more important now than ever, and I'm so proud and I feel so hopeful about the future, knowing that you will be entering the workforce, and that everything that you found in your research will go with you, and the influence that you'll have around, not just your coworkers, but your supervisors. I think that this is very meaningful. And I just want to hand it to this guy. I met him, about a couple of years ago? He took sophomore year, and I've just watched him develop as a student and as a scholar, and he's taken a full course load this semester. He's an honors student, just completed an honors thesis. He has been on the job market, and now graduation is next. So this is like everything, checking all the boxes at once, and you've done a remarkable job, Elijah, and I'm just honored to be a small part of that. So congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dr.